Welcome to STARCARD Podcast. Today is May 22nd, 2025. My name is Breakaway Ray. I like talking about the breakaway civilizations and breaking out of the one we're in now. This is STARCARD Podcast Adventure Number 1, Breakaway Ray Saves Your DNA. This is Chapter 4, Breakaway Ray and the No Good, Very Unsafe, Extremely Hostile Work Environment. So far, we've talked about control by unseen players using invisible tools and an unknown playbook. Now I'm ready to tell you about an unfortunately common product that affects people's health and then some. My story starts at another school in the neighborhood. A friend of mine told me about a teacher who we'll call Mrs. Kim Havenside. Mrs. Havenside was having the same kinds of problems at the school where she worked that I was having at mine. At the school where Mrs. Havenside worked, there were 4 classrooms which opened to a central room that everyone shared. And at least one other teacher who worked in the same building as Mrs. Havenside was using one of these. I'm simply going to call them an air-aroma product. This is just one sample. These products are not permitted, and I say congratulations to the school board for cooperating with the health and safety recommendations when they adopted those rules. Nevertheless, for whatever reason, people at Mrs. Havenside School wouldn't stop using the devices or similarly banned products. They knew it was making Mrs. Havenside ill. Presumably, this situation had been addressed at what's called the site level, meaning it had been brought to the attention of the principal and staff. Mrs. Havenside didn't have to be sick all the time. It was the air products that her colleagues were using which were making her sick. Sometimes people call these allergies, which I think is a euphemistic obfuscation. Allergies might be reactions to certain things in nature, like animal fur or plants maybe. When you get ill due to chemicals created and deliberately placed there by other humans, you're reacting to a poison or a toxin. Calling reactions to these products an allergy pulls the rug out from underneath the fact that it's a poison. You're dealing with poison. As you can imagine, it doesn't take long to destroy career-long relationships and even a career. Mrs. Havenside was eventually driven into early retirement, which means her financial situation was spoiled and compromised for the rest of her life. It didn't have to be this way. What's up with her colleagues, these other teachers who are college educated and take care of children for a living? Many of them are parents. If they know that the product they're using is not allowed and making people sick, why are they still using it? The end of Mrs. Havenside's story goes like this. Mrs. Havenside regarded all these people that she worked with, some of whom she had known for decades. Mrs. Havenside held them with the same contempt as she would with muggers and criminals. When Mrs. Havenside looked at these people, she saw people who were knowingly driving under the influence and getting in a wreck with Mrs. Havenside, ruining her health and ruining her life. I hear where she's coming from. I don't know if a retirement celebration took place for Mrs. Havenside. I'm not sure it could have. And where do you go when you're forced into early retirement? It's not so easy to just go find another job. All those people she worked with, all they had to do was follow the rules and use approved safe products in the classroom. None of this had to happen. For whatever the reasons, none of the people using the products or permitting the use of the products could acknowledge or care that anyone was getting sick. All of those people are going to go forward in their careers and lives, pretending like they don't know anything about ruining Mrs. Havenside's health and life. Sometime before Mrs. Havenside left teaching, the school district sent maintenance workers to her school. Because the principal and the union could not or would not enforce the rules and remove the toxic air products and devices, The district sent maintenance workers to do it. They walked around to all the classrooms and unplugged all such devices. Who knows if all the devices weren't just plugged back in the next day. I don't blame Mrs. Havenside for what happened at all. You shouldn't have to worry about getting sick at work. Yet the same thing had been happening to me for decades. I was getting desensitized to the ritual, daily pain and loss, and the trauma that went with it. At the end of my career, I was sleeping with a bath towel because I would wake up throughout the night drenched in sweat from processing toxins. My eyes were always crusted over. Because it was hard to breathe and even to read in the classroom, I had to work outdoors or in the lunch shelter before and after school or anytime I could. When I heard about Mrs. Havenside's story, in my mind, I was even shrugging at Mrs. Havenside, saying, hey, if you're working in a school, you're going to be poisoned. Accept it. Whether it's the fumes from the glues used in the walls of the portable classrooms, mold, air products that are not allowed on campus, and even perfumes and deodorants, if you're working in a school, seems to me you have to accept poisons as part of the workplace environment. Did I really just talk myself into accepting poison and daily negligence and deliberate abuse in the workplace? In a school, of all places. So, was I really so gaslit that I was yielding to being poisoned? No, I do not consent. To quote from the movie Cloud Atlas, I will not stand for criminal abuse. At the school where I worked, my struggle with this had lasted about a quarter of a century. No one could help. Not the principals and certainly not the teachers using the products. The more I called it to their attention, the angrier they got and the more they used them. They tried to conceal these air products, including with a fake flower pot. I can't get too into it here, and I won't because it was all too weird. College-educated school teachers and principals, almost all of whom are parents, pretending my health concern and the health concern of others too, and the district rules, none of it meant anything. It is my opinion that I have seen other people made ill from these products. I can't prove anything. There's this one teacher who used those products in excess, and by coincidence, she also had to have her gallbladder removed. I don't think it's a coincidence. I can't prove anything, but I know that gallbladders process toxins. I want to say I have personal experience with what that teacher was experiencing. I know what her symptoms were, and I know exactly what she went through because she put me through it too. She worked in the same building with me, and I was exposed to what she was using in her room. Anyway, I was always trying to explain as diplomatically as I could these things to administrators at the district level because I was stonewalled and basically ghosted at the site level. The site level is the school where I worked. And the last time I spoke to people at the district level, I spoke to district administrators about this, and they pretty much said, so? I said, I don't want to have my gallbladder taken out. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to have to use up sub days and write lesson plans for that. I'm still using my gallbladder. At that part of the conversation with district officials, we were already ignoring the facts that the products were not allowed and that they were actually injuring me, and I had been reporting on and asking for help with this for years. When I said I didn't want to have my gallbladder removed, these two district officials, my bosses, smiled like I was being so cute and said, we had ours taken out. Like it would be okay for me to join their club. Here's where I think it's obvious that someone is being stupid, callous, insensitive, incompetent, while being a danger to me and to others. But I don't normally come out and say all these things. Apparently I do it on the internet, huh? I don't feel like burning any more energy repeating myself or picking apart someone else's idiotic responses. I feel like people can make up their own minds about the sin and ignorance of what these public officials are saying, these public officials in charge of my life, health, career, and entrusted with the safety of thousands of children and employees. The only effect of my bringing it up and asking it for help was that it focused the targeting on me. It made no sense how nobody could or would do anything. It certainly made no sense that somebody would have to go to work and accept that getting sick, caused by the reckless negligence of other employees, despite rules and laws, getting sick was part of work. Parents may be concerned about their children taking up the habit of vaping. Vaping is the same science as these plug-in devices, electricity heating up mysterious oils. Just like with cigarettes, I'm not sure we really know or understand what's in those oils. I'm betting whatever's in them was put there on purpose for a reason. As we learn from the story of cigarettes, addiction probably plays a part. Vaping is probably not healthy, which is why vaping is not allowed on school campuses. Kudos to all schools that ban it. As far as I know, there's not a lot of research and testing on vaping. These plug-in devices I've been discussing are probably not healthy. They contain formaldehyde and carcinogens. And when they are used, everyone in the room gets to vape together. Here's what ColumbiaDoctors.org says about them. They are not strictly regulated. While most people can tolerate occasional exposure, some people get irritated eyes and throat, headaches, and even asthma attacks. Long-term use of these devices can affect heart function and hormone balance. This can impact reproductive health, and there is growing evidence that the chemicals used can cause cancer. The article goes on to say that the chemical process is not over after the scented aroma has taken over the room. There is a final chemical reaction in which the chemicals land upon a surface and transform it into a plastic. So, am I getting carried away here? Is there a skeptic out there musing that I should change my name to Carried Away Ray? Am I getting carried away here? When you breathe these things in, it turns whatever cells it comes into contact with into plastic? The cells in my body are turned into plastic? I will add, I am confirming what this very superficial look online at the risks of these devices tells us. I am confirming from my own personal experience that months and years after a product has been used in a room, there is still an unnatural, uncomfortable, and probably unhealthy, funky aroma in the room. In lots of ways, using these products ruins a room. These chemicals are absorbed on surfaces, saturating carpets and ceiling tiles. These cancer-causing chemicals don't go anywhere. I've even heard stories that these devices kill house pets. After all the things I've said so far, I still don't believe that the people who use these devices are going to stop using them. I wonder if you have encountered people with addictions of any kind? Good luck encouraging, inviting, or telling anyone to just stop. Their hormones have been hijacked. Their body chemistry has been altered. In some ways, people who are using these are no longer in complete control of their thoughts. In my world, it doesn't look like they're in their right minds. And this begs forgiveness. This is STARCARD Podcast, and I'm Carried Away Ray. I'm not exaggerating. I've got more to tell you in a few minutes. Now, in the district that I'm familiar with, the plug-in devices are also recognized as a fire hazard. This also doesn't matter because still there was nobody who did anything about them. I know they're not healthy. It may say so right on my home browser page, but I didn't need to do research to figure out these things are unsafe. I lived it. No one at school would see how sick I got because I would always put on a good face. It's like the old expressions, keep a stiff upper lip and never let them see you sweat. But when my colleagues use these prohibited and dangerous products, or when the principals would schedule staff meetings only in rooms where these products were used on purpose, I would be hobbled during work hours and incapacitated while off the clock at home. I would be unable to eat, drink, or sleep. By bedtime, I would be exhausted from the chemical-induced migraine and nausea. Once I laid down to sleep and all those chemicals settled wherever they settled in my sinuses and lungs and stomach, eventually I would have to go out to the backyard and vomit. It was a dry heave. I would be too sick to go to school in the middle of the night to write lesson plans for the sub, so I'd show up to work the next day wearing my tie and a smile and do the best job I could. Most people would probably go to the hospital, but I was used to it. For sure, I was in no condition to do anything, much less complain. And once I recovered, I was too busy catching up to remind and to complain, etc., etc., etc. It was really mind over matter, carrying on like it was just another day at the office, and not letting on to the children what was going on, but keeping their day bright and cheerful and on schedule. I was told to get doctor's notes, which I did twice, and it didn't matter. It was more like they were daring me to get a doctor's note. I didn't need doctor's notes. I knew what was making me sick. We all did. A long time ago, I asked one of my principals about this, like I needed some help and this principal is in charge. And this principal asked me if I wanted to go talk to those teachers about it. Like, do you want to do it? It illustrates the upward pressure the principal felt from these teachers. Maybe a psychic might say, somewhere there are thumbs on the scales of this situation. The more I complained and begged for help, the more these and other banned products were used. I was being deliberately provoked so that when I complained, they could all overreact and pretend like I was creating a hostile work environment for them, which they actually reported me for twice in an effort to get rid of me. In popular psychology, a few principles may be at play here. First, these teachers who were engaged in workplace bullying were using the victim control dynamic, where they would pretend that they were the victims in order to create a problem for me or whomever else they were targeting. These teachers did this with several teachers, usually the most easygoing ones. A second dynamic at play is projection. This is the concept of someone accusing someone else of doing what the accusing person is actually doing. It's like the old comedy routine where a man who has been drinking comes home to his wife who can tell, and she says, "You're drunk," to which the husband replies, "No, you're drunk." The people accusing me of creating a hostile work environment were actually the ones creating the hostile work environment, let me tell you. Well, let me tell you some other time. One could say that a third dynamic in play could be gaslighting and emotional abuse. Gaslighting is emotional abuse. Poor Breakaway Ray. Did somebody hurt your feelings? Crybaby Ray. Another dynamic at play is covert narcissism. Sure. Some people would add that apparently discrimination, laziness, and cruelty are involved too. By now, I hope someone is saying, "Hey, Breakaway Ray, forget the pop psychology. You got a tort case for workplace bullying, unsafe work environment, discrimination, and slanders against the law too, you know. And I understand they violated your accommodations agreement while you are all signing the papers. Anyway, I may agree with you on all those points. Great. Is there an authority that can help?" I couldn't find one. Well, actually, I did find one, and we'll save that conversation for another day. I mention all this merely for the flavor. This was my day every day at work. I cannot condemn anyone except maybe the creators of these products and the regulators who let them on the markets. Eventually, I'm going to forgive, bless, and thank all the people who did this to me, because if this never happened, I would never be able to share this adventure with all of you. Like multiple times, I offered to buy a projector for the staff room or the library or the music room so we could have staff meetings somewhere where I wouldn't get sick. There's so much to say about this. I suggested having meetings in my classroom or any classroom where those products were not in use. But no, nothing could be done. Meetings had to be in the room where everyone knew I'd get sick. I stood in the doorway at staff meetings. Oh, was I the one trying to embarrass someone? Or was I actually the one embarrassed and stigmatized because I didn't want to enter a room I knew was going to make me throw up? It was like they were teasing and testing to see if I was really getting sick. Could they get me to react in such a way that they could point fingers at me? They all waited for me to throw a tantrum the way these divas always threw tantrums themselves. Of course, I had to be careful not to react at all. I trained myself so that my face at rest always had a blank expression that said, "Have a nice day." Pretty soon, people were using crazy sprays in the bathroom too. I could not hold my breath long enough to use the bathroom. I tried to close my eyes as much as possible while in the bathroom because for the first time in 30 years, my eyes were burning when I used the bathroom. My eyes were burning in the classroom, but the bathroom was always a safe haven for me. Listen to how grateful I sound that I can breathe and open my eyes in the bathroom. I'm not talking about breathing in a bathroom after someone else's gases were passed in there. I'm talking about sprays and products used to mask the smell, which were not approved and are very toxic, frankly. There are too many daily, repeated instances of the challenges I faced and the retribution too. I bet there's someone out there, like a teacher or someone who knows about teaching, and they're wondering, "Hey, Ray, what about your union rep? Isn't there someone from the union there to help?" Every teaching staff elects a union representative, and this teacher represents them with the school principal in workplace and contract-related issues. Hey, where's the union rep? Let me tell you, that's a good question. Where is the union rep? When teachers are not following rules and they don't even care about recklessly endangering everyone's health. Where is the union rep when one teacher repeatedly makes comments about other teachers' hot bods? Where is the union rep when some teacher spreads rumors just to get other teachers in trouble? Does the union rep know that the principal has people listen in on phone calls with me to try to get me in trouble? Where is the union rep when some teacher keeps telling the principal that I'm trying to get the principal fired? There's a teacher who once told everyone at a staff meeting that I wanted to go on strike for everybody, like everyone else could still go to work and get a paycheck, but I would stand on the sidewalk for free and use up all my sub days because I have a lot of them from working so long and not using them no matter how sick I get. And then I would wave to people going in and out of the parking lot. I later learned that going on strike like that was against the law. You can get arrested. You can't just announce or go on strike like that. I think it's called a wildcat strike. You have to have made some kind of effort in contract negotiations. Also, I think the concept of the strike involves a collective strike. Like it's not just one guy, right? Anyway, so with all that said, where is the union rep? Can't the union rep step up and do anything? Can't you just mention it at the next monthly union meeting that you have after a staff meeting? You have monthly staff union meetings, right? Does your union rep have some kind of relationship with the principal? So where is the teacher union representative when all these other teachers are running amok like this? I like that question. While there were many teachers behaving inappropriately, unethically, and even illegally, the answer is that all those other teachers I talked about are one teacher, and this one teacher is the union representative. The union rep is doing all that. She's using the plug-in devices, flouting rules, and poisoning herself and her students. She's the one commenting on other teachers' bodies. More than once that I remember, she did it in front of me, and one time she did it to a male teacher, a married man, saying he had a hot bod. This male teacher came and spoke to me about it. He couldn't go to the union rep about it, right? The union rep was the one who just sexually harassed him. It was the union rep who announced to everyone that I would go on strike for everyone, which from her point of view would have been a wonderful quadruple whammy. I would look bad in front of the staff. If I go on strike by myself, I look like the town fool. I take a furlough, meaning I don't get paid. I use up valuable sub days. And there's the potential that I could get arrested too. She is the union rep, and she used the color of her authority to be a bully, particularly to me. Not just to me, but particularly to me. It was hard to address at monthly union staff meetings because the union rep wasn't holding any. It was a way to pretend there were no problems. I could ask, and I did ask, and the same thing would happen. Everyone would act like I was attacking them. Projection, remember? You can read more about it in my book, The Convoluted Autobiography by R. Snow, available at the Amazon Marketplace. It was the union rep who gave the principal permission to try to entrap me on the phone into saying things that could cost me my job. Like, I told a kid to bring a box cutter to the playground, or I told a kid to bring a knife out onto the playground. These are just two examples because having the principal let others listen in on phone calls with me became a routine thing. Now, it wouldn't surprise me at all to hear that the union rep was standing in the room listening in on the calls. The principal got permission from the union. Otherwise, a principal would get in a lot of trouble for doing something crazy like that. However, with the union on board, it wasn't targeting. They could make it look like they had just cause. After all, the union rep is impeaching him. Even the union rep thinks I need to be fired. These are expressions these people actually use, their words. Yes, the president of the teachers union actually called me up and told me what I had already deduced, which was that my phone calls with the principal were being listened in on. When the union president confirmed what I had already figured out, I thought that the union president was finally going to do something. I mean, it's illegal, unconstitutional, and it's harassment. But no, everyone pretended nothing was wrong. I'm sure they think they made it all go away. When the union rep and the principal were doing that, listening in on my phone calls in the interest of entrapment, that was violating my civil rights. Am I correct? They had no warrant signed by a judge to permit them to listen in on phone calls with me. Are they deputized by such a law enforcement agency? And yeah, according to psychic Liz Cross, this union rep is so unskilled and emotionally immature that she knows nothing except that she must manipulate people. It's obvious to me. I'm being deliberately nebulous and euphemistic right now. The union rep was the one telling the principal that I was trying to get her fired. How do I know this? The union rep told me herself 3 times that she was telling the principal this. This was not what I was doing. Oh yeah, did someone ask if the union rep had some kind of relationship with the principal? Anyway, does it sound like an organization with healthy leadership? Are you a teacher, a human resources officer, a risk manager, or a member of a union? Are you a lawyer who practices in this field? Please consider coming on this show and telling your story. Please educate me and our audience. Would you like to know more about my career in education? I am also the author of The Convoluted Autobiography by R. Snow. In the next and final chapter, Psychic Liz Cross and I journey to the life between lives to discover more bad news. Discovering bad news is good news. Here on STARCARD Podcast, no news is bad news.